Korea Republic to round out 2024 with a bang.
Well, and that's how you put a bow on the season that was, the Canadian women defeating South Korea 5-1 the final here in what is also the final match of 2024. As we welcome you back inside our One Soccer studio, you continue to watch Match Day Live. Andy Petrillo alongside Jordan Wilson, Amy Walsh joining us as well. This is the kind of game, Amy, we wanted to see from the Canadians after that scoreless draw against Iceland on Friday. What worked this time around for you?
I think it was individuals rising to the occasion, wanting to put their mark on the game. And you saw that particularly in the way that they attacked. That there was, I mean, Jenkins just referred to it as an emphatic victory. I think you saw some semblance of control with the way that they imposed themselves in the first half. It didn't translate necessarily to that clinical edge, that ruthlessness, that bite in the scoring that we talked about at halftime. But they found their footing and found their scoring boots in the second half. And that has to feel good for this team because it concludes a tumultuous year, but a really successful one for what they were able to accomplish on the pitch. So it must feel good for this group of players.
Definitely some desire as well, and some swagger, which you'd like to see with this women's national team. Just players being themselves and playing the football. You could see that they wanted it today and that they enjoyed it. And then, Andy, a day where there's different goal scorers and there's 5 goals in the back of the net, that's a beautiful way to cap off the year.
Well, that's exactly it. And I don't know if they were listening to our halftime show or if I'm just giving us more credit than we deserve. But we had said, just because you don't know who your coach is going to be with Canada's soccer in that present search, these are the types of games you're going to go back and look at the tape on. Who put in the effort? Yes, these are the friendlies. Who was the one giving it their all? Who had that kind of desire to go out there, score? What was the chemistry like? And I felt like, Amy, I don't know if this is just me, you know, thinking that was the case, but in the second half, I did feel like it was a bit more of a hungrier team that came out onto the pitch.
Yeah, it was also as joyful, Andy. Like there was some expression, there was individual brilliance, and it was almost like it was unbridled. And we didn't see that in a performance against Iceland. There was something about it that was relatively muted. It was almost like it was a microcosm of the cloud that's been kind of hanging over this program. Certainly not these players and the results and their performances, but you kind of saw it in their physicality and the way that they were moving. And then all of a sudden today, it's almost like everybody came to life. And maybe it's just getting it over the line because everybody needs so much needed rest, mental as much as physical. But I think you saw them express themselves, and it was a joyful performance in the second half. And that was wonderful to see.
Yeah, well, let's get to our Gatorade performance of the match. And that, of course, comes from Olivia Smith, who, Jordan, was everywhere in this game today.
She had a day. I mean,
she really did.
She provided the OG. She bullied 4 players for the 3rd goal. She missed the breakaway that I know is going to haunt her. She provided quality service as well for Gilles on that 4th goal. But this is a young player that was snubbed for the Olympic spot. For me, I thought she was ready, but hasn't looked back and really had a performance today where she put her front foot forward. And this goal right here will be on our highlight tape. The turn, break 3 from 2 players, skip past the 3rd, bully that one, and then doing what she does best, which is just picking out a corner, Amy. I thought she was exceptional today.
There's like a Heisman move in that as well. Like you talked about her bullying her way around. Like she just barged her way through. It's almost like that own goal. She took it as a personal affront, like an insult. And I adored that tackle. I was like, clip that. Let's put it in the back. Make her the player of the match, because that's the type of energy that you want imbued into the rest of the squad to be like, I'm going to score the goals. I'm going to assist the goals, but I'm also going to provide the decisive tackle when it's required. And that's what you want out of your Canadians. That's what you want out of a young player like Olivia Smith, who definitely made a mark today.
There's always a time and place to do certain things, but you're right. Even though they were up 3-0 at that point, you're still trying to put your mark on this game. You're still trying to put your mark on the program. And as I said, moving forward, you're trying to just leave that lasting impression. We all love that tackle, and you truly did scream in everybody's ear to clip it. Put that part of the pack. And we did. And it was a great game by Olivia Smith. It was also a nice game by Mimi Aladou. This is another player, once again, we've been saying, hey, why aren't we seeing more of her? She did score in that friendly against Spain. And then, Jordo, she gets one here today as well.
I mean, I love when I watch this women's national team and players shoot from outside the box. Janine Becky has done it in the past. Probably everyone would say Olivia Smith does it now. But Mimi Aladou has been given this opportunity this window, and that's the beauty of these 2 games. Great little pass from Gilles to go forward. But South Korea back off, and she says, you know what, let me try my luck. Andy Patrol, this is probably 24 yards out, dipping down, nearly barred down. This is a great strike, but this is just a player for me, Amy Walsh, that is just in confidence. Like, she has her confidence right now. She knows what she needs to do, and then she strikes that one beautifully.
Yeah, she had a bit of a quiet first half. I mean, a combination play that we saw working well with Reagan, like trying to play off, I think, Olivia Smith. Didn't quite pan out, but I think a stretched South Korea team in the second half gave her that space, and that hit from distance. Like, it's a screamer, and that's what this team needs more of. But that's what she's been doing for fun for Benfica. That's what she's been doing kind of when she was overlooked by Bev Priestman for so many years. So it makes you wonder how many other diamonds in the rough, like a Mimi Alidu, are out there that this program still has yet to discover.
That was not the best goalkeeping. I think we can all admit that. And even some of the best goalkeepers in the world have been beaten by long shots. That was obviously a misjudge in distance and height. But to your point, we're now seeing a team that is at least finding that target, because you just never know what's going to happen. Adriana Leon gets substituted into this game. She was already leading this team when it came to goals scored with 9. She gets one. So that is now 10 on the year. She hits the double digits. Jordan Vanessa Gilles scores in this one to finish the year off in second. And you said it. You wanted to see this team. In fact, you said this team needs to score by committee. So nice to see that Adriana Leon obviously being a forward and getting the job done. But we really did see a kind of a whole team effort here today.
What did I say when she scored? I said, give me that 10-piece, baby. And maybe I was referring to her Popeye's bucket of chicken. But that is a finish. The turn is great on the right foot. The way that she takes her time, like most people would shoot it here and rush it. She takes another touch, but finds the back of the net in that corner. She's had a great year in terms of just showing up when Canada needed. But I think this caps it off based on the performance on Friday for me. That just wasn't the same Leon that we know. It's nice that she gets to finish the year off with a goal, but of that magnitude. The turn, the finish, the fact that it's in the dying minutes of the match and she was subbed on, those are all feel-good stories to end 2024.
And if I'm Adriana Leon there, and there's a reason why I wasn't, 5 goals and 102 caps, I'm laying that off all day to Olivia Smith, who's sitting in the D, like screaming for the ball. And Leon's got her blinders on, as she should in that position, and saying, I'm going to roll this defender and I'm going to bury it in that lower left-hand corner. Like, that is what Canada needs. You need like a variety of profiles come to life across the front line who are going to bring variety to your attack, to bring threat from the wide areas, on the dribble, going 1v1, calling your own number, shooting from distance. And we just haven't seen that enough. And I was delighted to see Lucas, our producer, and everybody else who's working behind the scenes, how that graphic came to life as well. Because I think in the pregame, that 4th row was reserved for 4 players on 2 goals. And now it truly is by committee because you've got names there. So like, I think these players want to see their names in bright lights, and they're on the right track, scoring 5 today.
And for many reasons, right? This is the narrative around this team not being clinical in that final third. So you want to be able to end off the year feeling confident. Again, you know, yes, you can say this is an opponent that maybe is not the strongest, but then this is what you're supposed to do against them. So it matters to the veterans to find the back of the net. And it also matters when you have so many young players who are coming into this camp, or at least new players, and in particular, players who got their first cap. We saw Megan Reid, Geneva Hernandez-Gray, Nia Rose, and then we also know that Lyciane Prue, who, by the way, came on in the second half here, she got her first cap in that game against Iceland. It matters, Amy, when you do have these new players coming on in to create this winning environment.
Yeah, and I think we said between ourselves, like halftime, those substitutions who came on and did very well, and Jade Rivera and Shalina Zadorsky, but why not see the new faces then? But it's a moot point because you get 3 out of the 4 new faces that are called into camp. They get blooded. They get their opportunity. And that's what this window was about, if anything. It was about creating opportunity. So that was wonderful to see.
And you see those players, right? Like, that's that first step. That's them breaking the ice. I know Janet Okeke is a player as well. She'll get her moment. But just to get them cap-tied, give them that experience at the end of a camp where a lot of these young players feel blessed and privileged to be here, that's just what you wanted to see. And I kind of like, too, the fact that Sydney Tai is the one to do that. The one that looked at these players, had them in U17s and U20 World Cups. So that's a perfect thing for that to come full circle as well.
This is what we expected in this window, and this is exactly what we got. So for the Canadian women, it's a draw against Iceland, 0-0, and then it's a nice 5-1 victory here. In that first half, it was Kaylin Sheridan, didn't see much action. Lysiane Prue didn't see much action. So we got to go the other way for our all-state save of the match. And this was in the 14th minute, first half. Vanessa Gilles almost ended up on the scoreboard right there. But South Korea goalkeeper coming up with the save, eventually 5 finding the back of the net as we bring you the full-time stats here. So 22 shots the Canadians had, 9 of them were on target. They continue to maintain strong possession here. And then you have your 5 goals by the Canadians to end off 2024, remaining, by the way, undefeated in regulation, because a couple of the losses that they suffered this year, She Believes Gold Cup at Olympics, that all went to extra time. So you cannot say this Canadian team doesn't have fight. When we come back, we're going to look ahead to 2025 because there are some challenges for this team. Stay with us.
Who's driving?
Felix.
Susantia!
Their safety is important, especially when you can't be there. It matters to you. It matters to us.
What makes a Burnbrae egg a Burnbrae egg? For generations, we've put more goodness in, so you get a whole lot more out of every single delicious egg. A lot goes into a little at Burnbrae Farms.
I wanna run back to you. All I wanna do is run back to you and make my dreams come true. The only thing I ever do is run right back to you.
When the stakes are high, only the TELUS 5G network delivers.
What you doing up there, buddy?
Observing, helping. You could take note.
And the elf costume?
What about it?
Need a nutcracker?
Oh, this one goes to 11. Yeah. Fuzzy, they'll love it. Susan, that green really makes your eyes pop.
Need help with decorations?
It's a bit much.
Access Storage, proud partner of Canada Soccer and the women's national team.
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree, keeps working when others stop.
Welcome back to Match Day Live. What's to come for the Canadian women? They do have 6 FIFA International windows in 2025. It's the W Championship. The following year, World Cup 2027. Then we're looking ahead to LA 2028 for the Olympics. And then in 2029, it will be the Gold Cup again. But let's just focus on 2025, which is just around the corner. Yeah, that's right. We're already in December, everybody. Andy, Jordan, and Amy with you. Is there cause for concern, Amy, knowing that the Canadian women have not been invited to She Believes Cup? We have yet to hear anything on Algarve Cup, Arnold Clark Cup, which we know did not happen last year. Schedule getting congested for the women. So these types of invitationals, we're kind of seeing them getting pushed aside. So what kind of competition are we realistically looking at when it comes to the Canadian women next year?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I think given there's going to be a new direction, there's going to be new leadership and a new women's head coach, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think you have to have regular tests, like difficult tests, so that you see really what is at your disposal, who is going to emerge. But I think hopefully what it does is allows these players to get a sense of who this person is, who's going to be at the helm, what type of environment they're going to cultivate, what kind of system and philosophy they're going to espouse, and it'll give them time to get to know this person. So I would say as you get closer to 2027, that would be more problematic. But I think for right now, I think it's just fine so that there's a period of getting to know whoever's going to be coming in, and likely not just the one person, but a whole new staff for the Canadian women's national team.
Yeah, Amy just touched on it, right? I think one person is obviously the start, but it's really about a group, a collective coming in and really taking this team. But I think they're at a crossroads right now, this team. Like, you see some new young players emerging. You see some players as well that there's like a mental load that's been played on them because 2024 has been tough. But right now, whoever gets this team and who's taking them forward, it's a crucial time for them. So you just hope that they do the job that needs to be done.
Yeah, I feel like there's a little glass half full, glass half empty. And to your point, the glass half full is the fact that if you know you're going to have a new coach, you're probably going to have all new coaching staff as well. It'd be nice to have this ease in process. The glass half empty, of course, is, who are you going to play? What's your competition going to look like? We know that the European teams, obviously, they're going to have their UEFA Nations League. That's coming up in the springtime. One of those windows, they may not be available. Obviously, Euro Cup, not be available for that. So you just kind of look at, again, okay, well, what's the quality of competition that may or may not be there for 2025? But we're going to jump even further ahead, Amy. We're going to look at 2027. A lot of big names missing in this final window here for 2024 due to injury. But we know that once reinforcements come back, the new coach is going to have players to choose from, especially with so many of these other fresh faces now making their debuts and getting their feet wet here with the national team. So when you look ahead to this, World Cup roster, what kind of stands out to you when it comes to goalkeepers and defenders? Who do you think pretty much is, maybe some question marks or players that have solidified their role?
Well, question mark style-wise, I have about Lizzie-Anne Prouze clearly taking her cue from you, Andy, with the boxers showing underneath the dress pants. That's part of her look and what she does on the game day and part of her swagger. But I think we talked about on our broadcast, Claire Rustad made this great point that you need more meaningful games. And this goes back to this issue that you just posed before with a lack of that kind of defined competition. You need games for D'Angelo. You need more games for Prue. I think it's going to help the depth in between the sticks be world class, which is what Canada has done historically. And I think to Jordan's point earlier about blooding the youth and getting new faces in, I think you can see that when you look at the contrast between the stalwarts that we've had in this program for years, like the Zadorskis, the Lawrences, and the Buchanans, and then the newer players, the ones who've emerged and made their mark, like a Jade Rose, but then like your Okeke, who doesn't get her cap in this window, but I think is the future of this program and as it pertains to the backline.
That when you play these players is crucial. Like, obviously you look at this women's national team and the Buchanan, Gilles, and Jay Rose will probably always find their way into the lineup based on their quality, but picking the right moments to play OKK and getting just more of a player pool and getting them vetted. Because training only does so much. You have to find those moments whenever that next window is just to take a chance. I mean, if you look at Jade Rose as well, someone took a chance on her because of injury. If you look at Buchanan way back when, it was like she was taking a chance on. You have to pick those moments for young players to go improve, have them learn, take the hits, and then they can really grow from there.
By the way, these are the pants she's referring to. Faux boxers, not real boxers, got these pants in Europe, so I was ahead of the trend.
Faux boxers.
Faux boxers, not real. But apparently Prue, real. Let's make our way up to the midfield now, and as we take a look at, this is where you have like a plethora of players here. Yes. You have some really good depth in the midfield, as well in the forward position, although this is where it's kind of that conundrum, right, Amy? You got a lot of forwards, but it just, the luck hasn't been there with everyone being healthy for a long stretch of time and also being a little bit more clinical in that final third. But how do you see this playing out in a couple years?
I think, like, have this depth and this wealth of talent is wonderful for the program. It's just like, how do you best utilize it? How do you maintain this tactical flexibility that is developed within this group? And so those questions will be asked as soon as a new head coach is named. But I think you've got the pieces to do it. It's just, I think Jordan's point, he made it at either in the pregame or at halftime. It's how do you best combine the best qualities of all of these individual players so that collectively you can be world class.
I think also too, Andy, to look at this squad, you have Aladou, Quinn, Fleming that are all 26. Well, Fleming's 26 and then the other two are 29. But it's about finding those young pieces right now to really get them ready. Because that's the thing about national team football. You know me, we were just talking about it off air, being 33. I'm like, well, I could go and still play. Because you're like, you get older, but you still feel like you could do it. But you still have to have the young 20-year-old coming in that's fresh, chomping on the bits, because then you get a balance within the team. If you have all older players that feel like no one can take my spot, the complacency just sets in. Younger players have to step in. So it's like, who are you gambling on and where? Simia Wuja, I still think she can play the 6 in that defensive midfield spot, but Regan made a heck of a strong case for that defensive deep-lying midfielder today. I know Hernandez Gray is quality as well. It's just bringing in these players and seeing what type of chemistry. I thought the first half, the chemistry between Regan, Fleming, and Aladou was phenomenal. But it's finding it on the day when you go and play the States or Japan or whatever that might be, who is the best 3 or 2 to get the most out of the group. And you have to have options to really figure that out.
Yeah, and the development of it all, too, because you do start to look at those ages. I mean, even Jesse Marsh said it. If we're discovering people in their early 20s, like that's already too late. And you just hope that permeates, Amy, into the women's side of things, where it's like, listen, it's nice that you're finally giving Aladou and Reed and Reagan these opportunities, but we're talking about players already in their 20s. Where are the teenagers? Where is that system? Which, we could have a whole conversation on this, but I'll mention it. Now you understand even more so why Diana Matheson and NSL and getting that going and development and why it's so important, because where is the youth? Right? Like, where is the youth, Amy, on all of that? I don't know if you want to make a comment on that, but also just look back on 2024, the year that was for this team.
Yeah, well, I'll jump in on a variety of points. I think to Jordan's point about he's in studio thinking that he could still play, I think that's a man issue. Like, I'm 47. I comfortably know I'm retirement. I'm not making a comeback. But
that's
you make
wild.
a
That's
great
a wild
point.
Statement. All right.
I said at the beginning
Proceed.
for a reason. But to your point, Andy, about the pathway, it's apples to oranges comparing the men's game to the women's game. Talent has had to be outsourced in this country. We now have a place where players can toil, develop. Maybe we have academies on the horizon for all these NSL franchises. I think in 10 years, you might start to see, even less time, you might start to see like the benefit of having a domestic pro league here in Canada. But for right now, what's important, and I'm just going to echo a little bit what Jordan said, is that you shake up that status quo. It's not call-ups and call-ins for tokenism or to say like, yeah, we've got some fresh faces in. It's to push players out of their comfort zone, to pull the best out of these players. And I think you're seeing it. Like Mimi Aladou, there's tons of other Mimi Aladous out there. And she was hard done by. She was, I think, faced with the coach who was stuck and stubborn in her ways, had loyalty commitments to other players, was unwilling to consider a player who was a prolific scorer in what she considered to be a lesser league. So enough with that. Let's take away, everyone's got their biases, but you're going to be a head coach of this women's national team. I think it's an attractive position for anybody worldwide in the game. And I think I'm really excited to see, if we're talking about 2024, I meant to be wrapping that up, but I'm looking ahead to 2025. You need the meaningful competition in place, but the talent will emerge. But you have to give these youngsters, this youth, the wealth of talent that's here, a legitimate shot by way of meaningful minutes, not just call-ins to camp.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about attackers? We have time?
If you want. Do you want to say something on attackers?
Well, I mean, today we saw a young Olivia Smith look ready for that role. But there's so many attacking players for this Canadian women's national team, and I'll keep echoing it, and I hope whoever the future manager, whether you agree or not, just the attacking identity going forward for this team, because there are enough pieces, but how do you get all those pieces to be cohesive and work together? You know, are they going to be a crossing team? Are they going to play back to goal and play off someone? Are they going to be a bit more route one? It's just figuring that out. When you look at the names, the Janine Beckys, Nichelle Prince, Olivia Smith emerging, players that are playing, Mimi Aladu has contributed this window. Looking at these players, you're like, there could be more. Yeah, you're playing Korea Republic and you score 5 goals, but when it matters in that semifinal or final game, Canada has more than enough to go and be a threatening nation offensively against teams. And I think we need to move away from the fact that the defense has kept them in games and kept them in World Cups and in Olympics. Now there's attacking prowess that this team has. It just has to be nurtured.
Yeah. Well, changes continue to come to this program, and in particular on the women's side. It was a roller coaster ride of 2024, as we know, really taking the Americans to the brink in the She Believes Cup and the Gold Cup. Obviously, the controversy with the Olympics and the women persevering through all of that. Now the changes that will continue to happen off the pitch. We'll continue to keep our eye on the hiring process, as they will now have a new head coach and a new coaching staff on the Canadian women's side. They end off the year with a big W, 5-1 over South Korea. Amy Walsh, Jordan Wilson, I'm Manny Petrillo. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and have yourself a wonderful holiday.
Canada's women's national team on One Soccer is brought to you by Toyota.
Party people!